competition for the big chair in Fall River tonight.
The Dan York State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Taco Comfort Solutions.
So there's been some high drama in the fair city of Fall River, right, when it comes to the mayoralty, and a write-in candidacy was announced last week by the city administrator, who's got a pretty good gig and who's pretty familiar with the political scene there, having competed on a handful of times before. She's kind enough to come in and talk to us about her objectives tonight, and so you'll meet her coming up in just a few minutes. Great to have you aboard on this Tuesday evening. In the meantime, we haven't had a chance, because of program schedules and the way the news cycle works and all that kind of thing, to reflect on the latest controversy surrounding the Speaker of the House, although he would tell you it has nothing to do with him. By the way, whenever a public official tells you something has nothing to do with them, chances are there's something going on there. There's a way to lay the facts of a case out, and it'll become apparent that it's like, no big deal. But when you spokes and you say, this case has nothing to do with us, and so the Speaker kind of, I think in some ways, took a funny bit of bait today in appearing on WPRO, and I'm going to tell you about that in a moment. In the meantime, let me remind you what the story is about. Here's a headline that appeared on Friday. Former Speaker aide Jeff Britt indicted. This Jeff Britt is a political consultant, lobbyist, some say operative. He has been the want of many campaigns. There's nobody in the media that's not familiar with Jeff Britt on a cycle in, cycle out basis, myself included. Very talented guy, and the indictment serves to be, I think, a story that is hardly completely told, even though the Speaker wants to tell you it's over. Here's what Eyewitness News reported, and I'll fill in some of the blanks.
This was the mailer sent out by Republican Shauna Lawton in 2016, endorsing Democratic Speaker Nicholas Mattiello for state rep in Cranston after she lost the Republican primary in that race to Stephen Frias. Now Attorney General Peter Neronha says a grand jury has indicted former Mattiello advisor Jeff Britt, accusing him of laundering money to Lawton through a campaign donor to pay for that mailer.
Rhode Island's election laws exist for a reason: to ensure transparency in our elections. Mr. Britt, as alleged here, thwarted these goals by intentionally and unlawfully disguising the true source of the funds used to pay for Ms. Lawton's mailer endorsing Speaker Mattiello.
Here's what Speaker Mattiello told us about it in 2016.
I came to the conclusion that nobody in my campaign has any knowledge of that issue.
Britt's attorney, Robert Correnti, says, we believe that the evidence at trial will leave Rhode Islanders scratching their heads about who did and who did not get charged, and will show that Mr. Britt was used by the Mattiello campaign as a fall guy. But a spokesperson for Mattiello's campaign says these proceedings do not involve the Speaker. The Board of Elections resolved this issue for the campaign approximately 1 year ago.
This criminal conduct had everything to do with the Speaker. It was about helping him get reelected.
Frias lost to Mattiello by just 85 votes in that 2016 election.
And it's kind of embarrassing to be represented by somebody like him. I don't understand why the Speaker surrounds himself with these kinds of criminals.
Steve Frias is a unique character, no doubt, but he feels like he got robbed in the 2016 race. He ran again in 2018 and didn't fare as well, meaning didn't get as close. But there's no doubt that some of the moves that the Speaker and his team in the campaign made in 2016 thwarted an upset. In fact, interestingly enough, Jeff Britt rode most of the write-in campaign home for the Speaker. The Speaker got beat at the ballot box, you know, where you go in and vote personally, but won on mail-in ballots organized by the management of Jeff Britt. That's clear, and that's not debatable. One of the things that I think is fascinating about this is that the Speaker took an invitation from WPRO on the morning show with Gene Vellicente today, and I think wove a tale that down the line is just not going to match up. Listen.
I did not know what was going on with that mailer, and after two very thorough investigations, There's been no indication from anybody that I knew anything about this. Right. You've got a campaign worker who clearly was trying to impress and ingratiate and come up and say, wow, look what I did for you. I blew this campaign open for you. And I did not know.
Okay. Fascinating. You know, I know the characters pretty well. I don't know Mr. Britt to be one of those guys who's looking for a belly pat. Look what I did. Look what I did for you. Surprise, Mr. Speaker. I delivered this mailer. Surprise. Can I have a biscuit? I don't see that. What I do see is a couple of things. I'm pretty certain Mr. Britt didn't write the mailer, which means that somebody in the campaign wrote the mailer. Whoever wrote the mailer needed to get the data. The data included in the mailer, meaning the talking points, would come from the campaign manager and the candidate themselves. Under no circumstances would anybody in that campaign have ever written anything to be put out on the street without the express consent of the candidate and his campaign manager. That's just common sense. So it's interesting, the Attorney General's case ran up against the statute of limitations on these acts by Mr. Britt, who clearly is in some hot water here in terms of how this mailer was funded. By the way, we're talking about chump change. This is a couple of $1,000 at most that are involved, and it's $1,000 of funny money in that some cash, the indictment talks about cash, being given to a third party who then wrote a check to Ms. Lawton, who accumulated that check and another on the record, and then took that money and sent it out for the mailer. Okay? Because she didn't have any money. But if you think that Mr. Britt was self-funding the $1,000, that would be a surprise to me. If the bookkeeping was sloppy, if there was something that was being third party, I don't know, hidden, well, that's something that I'm sure the Attorney General is beating down on here. Whether this case goes to trial or not will be a real interesting story, right? Because as Mr. Correia, the lawyer for Mr. Britt, is suggesting, this is going to be, quite the tale. The Speaker is always welcome here. I've got some very direct questions for the Speaker about how he's positioned this particular case. And as I said on the radio yesterday, what's been missing from this entire thing is the Speaker's grand press conference with all of the media to answer all of the questions that everybody who paid attention to this campaign has. Looking forward to that too. Stay tuned. I don't think this case is open and shut. And I'm looking forward to talking to the Attorney General about this. We have an invitation in, and he's always been kind enough to respond. In the meantime, let's get to today's conversation, which is kind of an interesting one as well. Mayor Correia steps down. He didn't want to go anywhere. So he was kind of thinking about how to get this thing done. Here's what Eyewitness News reported on it.
Today is not goodbye.
Embattled Fall River Mayor Jazel Correia stepping aside.
I'm here today to officially announce my decision to forgo my campaign for re-election as the mayor of Fall River and take a temporary absence from my responsibilities as the mayor of the city.
The announcement comes just over a year after the 27-year-old's initial arrest on federal fraud charges and a month after a second arrest on extortion. He maintains his innocence.
Today's announcement provides the city of Fall River an opportunity to build on the successes and accomplishments of my administration without any distraction.
Correia submitted a letter to the City Council Tuesday saying he will be temporarily absent from his position and unable to perform the duties of his office. As of 4 o'clock, handing over the reins to City Council President Cliff Ponte.
We could have talked about when it happened, should it have happened sooner, but it happened now. And now at this point, we owe it to the community, we owe it to the department heads, we owe it to the city administration that we move past this collectively as a community, because that's what people deserve right now.
As acting mayor, Ponte will still earn his city councilor salary of roughly $16,000 a year, while Correia will continue to collect his more than $118,000 a year pay. Can you talk about the legality, the process of him being able to say he's unable to perform his duties but is still able to earn his salary?
That's what the charter says. The unable is you're not going to be able to come to the office, and he's not going to come to the office.
After his announcement Tuesday, the mayor refused to take any questions.
The city administrator is here, and thank you for coming in.
My pleasure,
Cathy
Dan.
Viveiros. Before we get into your campaign and your writing candidacy for mayor, what's the buzz in City Hall regarding that bunk, the notion of unable to come? I've read the charter, that's what it says. Unable to come because you got to go to the Patriots game, unable to come because you've already declared that you're going to spend a lot of your time working on write-in campaigns, unable to come because you got a hangnail, unable to come because you just don't feel like it. What's unable to come supposed to mean? Do you know?
Well, the charter, unfortunately, is somewhat unclear on this matter. They do talk about medical reasons, geographic reasons, or another cause.
Other cause.
So,
Other cause.
whatever that cause may
is.
be, that's
Do you agree with
apparently
me
what
that
the
the city
mayor believes.
do you agree with me that the city council right now should call a session and vote to stop payment on his paycheck?
Well, again, the charter is what's driving the course of
Charter
action.
doesn't speak to this.
It doesn't, but it also says that the city council, or at least the interpretation has been that the city council does not have the ability to remove the mayor from office.
Well,
Only the voters can remove
If I
the
was city
mayor
council
from
president, I would
office.
make a move and I would resolve, and I'd go to court on stop payment on his check.
And again, the council certainly has that ability. They have their own council that they've hired, so it's not the corporation council representing them. If they wanted to make that decision, they could.
Do you think the mayor should be paid for the balance of his term not coming to work?
Well, I think that if the charter allows him to collect and
I'm
we
asking
choose
about
not
whether
to
you
pay
think
him.
it is good business and whether it's fair practice and whether it serves the constituents well for him to take a powder here and get the balance of his paycheck.
No, certainly not. I think if someone's not working, then they're not earning a wage and they should not be paid. But legally speaking, based on the charter, there's a question as to whether if the pay were stopped, that he would ultimately be able to collect back wage.
Would you agree with me that it's testable, certainly? Because
certainly.
Because the charter has a level of ambiguity in it?
There is, and that's up to the city council to decide whether they want to take that next step. I know they still have legal counsel on board, and that's really their decision.
Okay, when we come back, we'll ask about our guest's write-in candidacy. Stay with us. So then this pops up after Mayor Correia decides to exit stage left with paychecks still being processed. Here's Eyewitness News on the latest political entry.
True, it has been very demoralizing for us, but we can't let it define us. It's not who we are.
Cathy Viveiros says she wants to look beyond the controversy surrounding Mayor Correia and focus on the future.
If you agree with me that we are on the right track, let's keep it going.
Viveiros is the current city administrator and says she supports the mayor's decision to step aside from his duties.
There's no question that we were being distracted, that there were certain things that we were not able to accomplish, and he recognized that, and I think that factored into his decision to step aside and formally end his campaign.
Although he's no longer campaigning, Correia's name will remain on the ballot. The frontrunner in September's preliminary, Paul Coogan, believes Correia is orchestrating several write-in campaigns, including Viveiros's, in order to split the vote and once again become mayor.
I give him credit for follow-through on this one, but that's what he laid out, and that's what I think he's trying to do in this election.
Your decision to jump into this write-in candidacy, any discussions with the mayor about it?
I told him that I was considering a write-in candidacy after his latest round of indictments, and ultimately again after his preliminary election.
As it stands right now, you
result.
work for him, correct, as a city administrator?
Yes, although he stepped aside, so
And you
I
get a
don't
pretty big
report to
job.
him. I do.
And you sound like, by my appearances, and again, I don't pretend to have an intimate gut check on Fall River, so I'm going by instinct here. You seem like you're pretty sharp.
Oh, thank you.
Why would you walk into this mess?
Well, I've
Get
invested.
like a crazy streak? You've run 6 times, right?
I have. So this is not something
you're not
that's
getting
new
any
to
traction.
me. No.
You don't take no for an answer very well, or what's the story?
I'd like to think that this time it's going to be a little bit different.
Why
Clearly, I have the name recognition. I've served 8 years on the city council and never had any difficulties getting elected to that office. Have run for mayor a number of times. And I think what's different this time is that for the past 6 years, I have been serving as city administrator. People know that I have very strong experience. I have demonstrated leadership capabilities. And interestingly, I've served under 3 different mayors, so there's been a bit of a tumultuous time in Fall River. Been through, this will be my second recall attempt that I've worked through. And I've been that steady hand that's been at the helm throughout it all. I think we've made some tremendous gains. The one I specifically mention is we started with $500,000 in the rainy day fund when I took on my position, and that's grown to over $9 million because of some very good budgeting practices, cost cutting, and also some great initiatives with our union leaders. So that's been very important. So my feeling is we've accomplished so much that I want to keep it going.
Okay. All right. This is you're an interesting character, because I'm listening very carefully to you, and I'm thinking that you really have it on the ball in some ways. But I do know people in public life who are really smart on one side and don't have a clue on another. You can't win a write-in candidacy. Not a shot in hell.
Well,
ever.
I
Not
don't believe
a chance.
That. All right.
The sticker campaign.
Are we going to wager that?
Sure.
All right.
You know,
okay.
I don't know for your.
Maybe a cup of coffee.
Yeah,
That's about
well,
all
I'm a
I'll be
beer
able
guy.
to afford
Hey,
when
listen,
I'm done.
I'd be happy to. And I don't mean to be antagonistic.
Not at all.
When's the last time a write-in candidacy was victorious of any significance, anywhere, anyhow? Who? Where?
Well, we actually just had one over in nearby Somerset, where a candidate ran and was successful
For what?
on a write-in.
Dog catcher?
No, a school committee position.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
This is the mayoralty in the middle of all
true.
of this.
Although interestingly now, 50 years ago, 5-0, there was a candidate who ran for mayor, Earl Gaudette. I actually served on the city council with him, and he managed to get 9,000 write-in votes, and that was 50 years ago. So if he was able to amass that amount of write-in votes then, I'm saying, you know, there's opportunity.
All right, listen, Correia was outed in this campaign strategy session that he had. The audio went to the Fall River newspaper, where he was talking about, you know, trying to dismantle Mr. Coogan's lead by having multiple write-in candidacies that would siphon votes from the top. And his second, by the way, he remains on the ballot despite him taking this in his own mind leave, right? There's no doubt that Jazel is out there trying to build whatever base he has and construct some write-in candidacies, hopefully to chip away from Mr. Coogan's substantial victory in the primary. Are you saying under any circumstances you've never had a strategic conversation with him about this at all whatsoever, period?
No, I just notified him that I was considering it.
But knowing that he did that, why would you taint your good name by being involved in a write-in candidacy when he's already been kind of caught with his hand in the cookie jar strategizing a multiplicity of write-in candidates to erode the top contenders' votes?
Okay,
Why would you do that?
So there really is only one write-in candidate, and I know he had this reference to multiple candidates. There's only one. It's me.
So far.
That's right. Well, I think it's really late
getting
now.
close.
It's really late now. I think.
Meaning
I'm
Jazel swung and missed and he couldn't generate any others, or is he out there
I don't
trying
know
to
what
dig it
his
up?
plan was. All I can say is that I am in this to win. I've invested a huge amount of my own personal funds to do it.
How much?
I feel I'm gonna get to about $18,000.
Of your own dough?
Yes, absolutely. And because I feel strongly about it. I'm very passionate about the city. I've been involved for over 40 years in various capacities, and I really want to see the city move forward. I've heard about the plans that my opponent has. I do not believe they're going to be in the best interest of the city. He really has no plan. He has strategic objectives. And so I can't invest this much in a community, and especially in the past 6 years, with a great team at Government Center, a great team of union leaders, and not try to go ahead and keep it all moving under my leadership. I have to do this.
All right, well, so when we come back, we'll talk about what Mr. Coogan doesn't get right. Stay with us.
I'm here today to officially announce my decision to forgo my campaign for re-election as the mayor of Fall River and take a temporary absence from my responsibilities as the mayor of the city. Those duties will now be handled by the city council president. I will continue as mayor until January 1st, 2020, and will focus the remaining time and my attention on championing and supporting many of the impactful social programs that I have established during my administration.
Okay, it's going to do good, and it's going to do good in the community. You know, he's a pretty sharp kid. He's got this weird streak, right?
Hmm.
Did you enjoy working for him?
He was, yeah, he was good. He really challenged us to
Does his vision
take
match
some
yours?
new initiatives. No, no. I certainly support some of what he did, but
Namely?
in city administration, I was really part of the nuts and bolts of the day-to-day of government,
Right.
whereas the mayor sets policy.
Right.
Specifically, I will say that in redoing our budgetary work and our cost savings and planning, we were not only able to amass $9 million in reserves, but at the same time, the mayor wanted the household fee eliminated, and we did it.
Okay,
And
I'm
he
running
wanted the
short on
purple
time, and I'd
bags.
love to have you back, but
Okay.
here's the thing.
I'd love to come back.
I don't often give any level of credibility to write-in candidacies, but because you've got a history and such a prominent
Mhm.
position, is this kind of a kamikaze mission, this write-in candidacy, in the sense that I'm guessing you wouldn't work for Mr. Coogan if he becomes mayor?
No.
No.
From what I've learned, no, it would not. It
What
would not be a
specifically,
good
in
fit.
30 seconds, what's wrong with his vision?
He doesn't have a vision. He's talked about auditing all of the city's accounts, although we have an independent auditor that comes in every year. My $9 million is likely to dwindle to $4 million if he's going to spend that kind of money on auditing every single account. He's from education, and yet I don't think his educational platform speaks to student-teacher ratio in the classroom. It doesn't talk about adding additional resources. I have a tremendous reading program that I want to launch for all third graders, because we've got to get them proficient in reading. Half of our schools need intervention. So I could go on and on about
I bet
policy.
you could, and perhaps you and Mr. Coogan will share the set. You would do that.
I would hope so.
You would love to do that?
I would love to debate him.
All right, give me 15 seconds. If you're elected mayor, what happens to Fall River?
Continues to move forward. We continue to build up our financial reserves. We continue to add services for pothole and sidewalk repair that people have wanted. We launch new industry development. We're moving the city in the areas of marine and emerging technologies. It's going to change the economic base.
And last thought, 10 seconds. Why didn't you just run from get-go?
Because I couldn't be effective as city administrator if I was campaigning against my boss. So I made it very clear publicly from the very beginning that I would not be a candidate if, in fact, he was on the ballot and serving in that position. So unfortunately, he only gave me 3 weeks, but I'm going to get it done.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
You are an intrigue.
Hope we are back again for a debate.
Final word when we come back. Yeah, so violating past practice, we'll probably ask Mr. Coogan and Ms. Viveiros to come in. I think the people of Fall River deserve it. I was going to say demand it, but all right, we'll see you tomorrow on the radio at 3 and back here tomorrow night. Good night.